Here we have the inside of the Auto-sleeper Broadway FB. If we firstly come to the main control panel just here, we can turn the 12 volt on this button. Once we've done this, we can turn the water pump on and off just here. We then have the isolator for all of the onboard lights. They can then also be individually turned on and off on their own switches. Next we have awning light on and off. This button here does absolutely nothing. This is a generic control panel, and on some of the other manufacturers' vans they use this particular one to dim the lighting. Next we have battery selection, so we can switch between the vehicle battery and the leisure battery. Whichever battery you have selected whilst you're hooked up to the main supply is the battery you are charging. And lastly we have tank heaters on and off, so if you are using the van in extremely cold climate you can pop this one on to avoid any frost damage. All other information is then given via scrolling. So if we go back to the beginning, we have the Auto-sleeper logo, we have the time displayed, the internal temperature, it's letting us know we're hooked up to the main supply with a little picture of the lightning strike, and then this one here is just giving us a false reading because we do not have an external thermostat. If we now begin to arrow, we can have the control panel just as a clock. This is where we can alter time, etc. Just arrow in and it will highlight, and then you can adjust if required. We can set a wake up alarm and then turn it on and off just here, and we can also set a countdown timer if required, and again turn it on and off just here. Next we have condition of the leisure battery, how many amp hours in the battery, what the solar panel is doing, and how many battery amps we're either using or have coming in, depending. We then have condition of the vehicle, condition of the leisure, how much water is in the fresh tank and how much water is in the waste tank, and then back to the beginning again. Beside this we then have the control panel for the Truma heating and hot water. Turn on just here. Once we've done this, again it will display the time and then let us know what it's up to along the bottom here. So H stands for heating, and you'll see at the moment the thermostat is set at 5 degrees. E stands for electric, so it's just letting us know that we are using electric to do heating and hot water at the moment. And then you'll see W for water, and you'll see at the moment it is set at 0 degrees, so it's not actually been turned on. If we now come to the buttons along the bottom here, you'll see this one here, which is for your heating. So if I now press it, you'll see that the heating is in winter mode. So all we now do is we use the arrows up and down to pick the temperature we would like it to be inside the motorhome, and it will go right the way up to a rather toasty 30 degrees. So let's say we want it to be 21 degrees in here. You then need to press the set button to register it, and you'll now see down here that the heating is now set at 21 degrees. If we now come to the picture of the shower head, this is for your hot water, and if I now click on it, you'll see the water is in winter mode at the moment. So we either have the water off, or if I now arrow down, I can now press set and heat the water up to 60 degrees. This will now continue to flash until the water temperature has been achieved, and then it will go to a solid state to let you know. To change the power source, so at the moment we're using electric, we use the middle one just here. So we can use mains electric using 4 amps or mains electric using 8 amps, so just dependent on the ampage of the site you're on to stop yourself from tripping, and you'll see the arrow moves as I use the arrow buttons. If we have no main supply, we can just use gas, as you can see now with a little picture of the G. And if we have both power sources available, we can use dual fuel, so we can use a mixture of main supply and gas at either 4 or 8 amps. This is extremely handy, especially in the winter months. If you want to get up to temperature nice and quickly, it will only use the gas as it's required. And you'll now see it says EG for electric and gas. But what I will now do is put it back onto main supply only at 8 amps. If we now go into the settings menu, so if we now just hit set, again you will see as I press the button, the little black arrow moves down with it. So we can set timers if we want. We just turn them on and off just by hitting set and then arrowing across to on. We can set it in winter or summer mode. If I now change it to summer mode, and we now come back out of it again, you'll now see, because we're in summer mode, we can no longer turn the heating on and off because we don't require it. And you'll now see if I use the water button, we can now heat the water to either 40 degrees or 60. If I now change it back to winter again, it will resort back. We can also set the clock, and again it's just hit set and then use the arrow keys to adjust it. This is where we set the timers. So if we want to set timer 1, we click on it and then we set when we would like it to begin and end, and then whether or not we want water on, and then set the temperature we want it to be. We can set it whether or not we want to hear the beep or not. Set the brightness of the backlight. And then we go back to the beginning again. If there's a problem in any shape or form, it will let you know. I'm going to just make it error just for a second. So if we just come down to the consumer unit for a moment and I turn off the 2 isolators for it, it will now throw up an error code to let us know that it's lost main supply. And if I turn them back on again, it all goes back to normal again. So 9 times out of 10, as long as you just rectify the problem that it's telling you, it will sort itself straight back out again. If we now come properly to the consumer unit, as I've just shown, we have the isolators for the heating and hot water on main supply just there. So if you turn them off, you will get an error if you're running your heating or hot water on main supply. We then can turn the battery charger on and off. Again, we want this one on because otherwise we will not be charging the leisure and vehicle battery when we're hooked up to mains. This one will illuminate if you are connected to reverse polarity, to let you know. We then have the same buttons that we find on the main control panel, so we can turn the 12 volt on and off, turn the water pump on and off, turn the lights on and off, and switch between the batteries. And then the last one is full system shutdown. So if you're not using the motorhome for long periods of time, you can shut the whole system down at the back here to kill any residual draw on the leisure battery. Beneath it we then have the 12 volt fuses, and they're all numbered up and then corresponding the Auto-sleeper handbook. And then we have the trips just here, so we have the individual MCBs, the main RCD and test button just here. Underneath the bench seat we then have the location of the leisure battery just here. There's also a safe, and right at the very back here we can see the back of the whale smart fill point just here, so just do be careful, because if you knock into the terminals and knock them off, obviously it will not work. We then also have underneath here a few more fuses, and again they are all labelled up, but they're more for bits that are on the outside of the motorhome. As we move along, we have the hob just here, so we have the electric hot plate that works off the main supply. Operates just here, and the red light comes on to let you know it's in operation. Everything else is gas, and it's just push in, twist and press the igniters. We then have the grille beneath. And then the oven. Beneath the oven we have the normal storage. You'll also find the pressure switch for the water pump, so if you are getting a great deal of pump shudder, you can just slightly adjust just here. Above the hob we have the extractor fan, so we have two fan speeds, high and low, and then two light levels as well. We have the microwave just here. The isolator switch for it is just by all of the plug-in points for the television. As it shows on the sticker, do make sure that you remove contents for travel, and then it behaves like most normal microwaves. Quick start, stop just here, time set. Below the microwave we have the Thetford fridge freezer, on and off on this square just here, so off and on. This is an automatic unit, so as long as you are on A for auto, it will find the best power source it can for you. So because we're currently hooked up to main supply, it's put us onto mains. If I now went outside and pulled the mains lead out, it would then automatically attempt to fire itself up onto gas, and then as soon as you start the engine, it will then automatically go over to 12 volt maintain. We can take it out of auto just by pressing this button here, so I can manually put it onto mains and 12 volt maintain. We're going to get an error code at the moment because the engine's not running, and I can manually put it onto gas, but auto is the easiest one to have it on. Temperature control just here, and then the last button is for the unit's anti-condensation jacket. So anti-condensation jacket off and on. It definitely needs to be on in the warmer months. This stops the unit from building up condensation at the back of it, which would then run down and cause a puddle of water to form underneath the unit. We then have the fridge with a secondary travel catch just at the bottom here, and the freezer compartment. If we now go into the wardrobe, we have the small table just here with the pole. Also in here we have the digital amplifier for the television aerial, on and off just here, and then control the boost on the dial just here. We then have the aerial itself. Undo the collar to raise the mast and then twist it into the position you require. Then lock it into place. Do not over tighten because you can split the plastic. If you need to do additional tuning, you can flip it from the horizontal position to the vertical just by turning the tail here. Do make sure that the mast is down for travel. If we now go underneath the bed, we can see the location of the boiler. The drain valve for the boiler is, if I can just get my torch in here, there we go, is just this little blue diamond here. So these particular drain valves are automatic, so if the temperature around this area drops below 3-4 degrees, this will automatically open and drop all the water out of the boiler to frost protect itself. If we are going to manually drain it, what we need to do is come to this diamond just here and twist it, and it will then drain the water out. To close it, twist, and then down at the bottom here there's a little blue button that just needs to be pushed in, and it will then reset it and allow it to be re-primed. If this auto drains, all that will happen is the blue button will just pop out at the bottom and you just need to press it to reset. If it will not stay in, it's just too cold in the motorhome and you need to turn some heating on to generate some heat and allow it to reset. If we now come into the washroom, we have the shower just here. Do make sure that the shower screen is clipped back for travel. We have the Thetford toilet. Open to the cassette on the grey lever. Push the flush just here. Because this particular van has been fitted with a SOG system, as soon as you open the blade just down here, the SOG system will kick in and the fan will start, and when you close, the fan will then cut back out again.